Today we are going to look at the ThumbJam and GarageBand apps again, but this time we are going to look specifically at how to share your different audio files that you've created and the different sounds that you've made using these apps with other apps in the same iPad, with other iPads, with other computers, and to save stuff for later. So we're going to have a look at exporting a couple different ways. There's some ThumbJam specific ways, there's some GarageBand specific ways, and there's ways that you can combine the two together and play in GarageBand using ThumbJam and play in ThumbJam using GarageBand. Lots of different things, so we'll have a look at all of that today in this video. Enjoy! So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at using the Wi-Fi transfer option using the ThumbJam app. So if you open up your ThumbJam app there, you'll see I've got the piece to hand that I made in the last video when we looked at making loops. Now I made a couple of instruments using this as well and some samples, and I want to save them to my computer because, say for example, I have to give this iPad back to somebody else because I've borrowed it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up these preferences. And there's a couple of different options here for exporting and importing things, but the first option that we're going to look at is the Wi-Fi transfer. So if you press that Wi-Fi transfer button, and then we're going to click Enable Server, and then you'll need your laptop or your computer open as well, and in your laptop you just open up your Internet Explorer browser or your Chrome browser or some kind of internet, and you type in this web address here. So just as it's written, type it in and go. And it'll open up something that looks like this. This is what the screen looks like when you open it up in Internet Explorer, I think I've used, but you can use whatever you have. So the first thing you'll see is there are three headings here. So you've got your instruments, and if we scroll down you'll see there's a bunch of different instruments, and these are the ones that you can select in ThumbJam. There's your loops and sets, there's your session audio, and if you scroll all the way down here, keep going, there's a lot of instruments, so it pulls it down. You'll see underneath those preset instruments, you'll have all these recorded instruments that you've made using the samples you've recorded using the Create Instrument button. So basically from this page you can download any of these sounds to save in your computer and then upload into another version of ThumbJam. Say if you need to delete it, you can upload it later, or if you need to put it into a new iPad. So some of them say just download, so you click that button, and you'll see it started to download at the bottom left of my screen there. With the loops, because they contain more information, you'll have to press this button that says Create Archive, and it'll just refresh for you, and then you'll be able to download it. So you just click that, and you'll see it downloads in a zip. You can also delete things from here as well, but you can do that in the iPad as well, so you don't really need to do that. So that's what you can do. You can download any of these sounds for whatever reason, and you can save them and store them later. While we're here, we might as well look at how to import using the Wi-Fi transfer as well. Super easy. So you do the same thing on whatever laptop you want or whatever iPad you want to upload your loops or your instruments or your sample sounds to. You click that Wi-Fi transfer button, enable the server, and copy and paste the web address into your browser. And then it'll show you the screen as normal. So say I want to upload an instrument. I've downloaded it from my other iPad and I've got it ready to go. All I'm going to do is I'm going to click this Choose File button. You'll see here it says it's got to be in a certain format. So this should be a zip archive containing the proper instrument description files and audio files. These may have been recorded online or created as a user by the recorded sample set below. So as long as it's in a zip file, it should be okay. So choose that file. As I've downloaded it straight from Wi-Fi transfer from the other iPad, it should be good to go. I'm going to select that thing that I want to upload. I'm going to click Open. And you'll see it's shown up here, clap.zip. I'm going to click the Upload button. There we go, it's refreshed. Scroll down, make sure it's worked, and there we go, you'll see it there, it's clap. So now when I open that ThumbJam on that iPad, that should be set up as a user instrument ready to go. You can do the same thing with loops. You can upload loops the same way. If you've downloaded a loop from a different iPad, you can upload that using the exact same format. Perfect, so we've had a look at the Wi-Fi transfer and we should know how to use the import and export now, so we can get rid of that. So the other way that you can export things from ThumbJam that you've made, like loops or your instruments, is you can press this button that says import export, scroll all the way down to, here it is, browse audio to export, click that and it'll bring you up these 4 different options of things that you've saved. So if you click that first one, your loop sets, so if I click that drop down on the one we've made in the last video, it gives you all of these different numbers. So basically you can export the individual tracks from your loop that you've made, the individual 8 bars, you can export them like that. And if you tap them, it'll play, and then you can click those individually. Your loop button lets you export the loops as a full, so with all the tracks on it. Your sessions is any of the sessions you've recorded, you can export them in full, and your samples is all of the instruments that you've created. And again, it's kind of like the loop sets, so if I click this clap one, you'll see there's a couple of different options, but you can just tap them and it'll play, and it should play your sound for you. There we go, that's just a clap sound that I've recorded, so you'll know which is the right one to export. So pick whatever it is that you need to export, and then down here you've got 2 options. So the first option that you can use for exporting is this little box with the pen in it. So that's just you'll make an email. So if I tap that, there we go, it's attached it to the email automatically and you can send it to yourself or somebody else. Your next option is you can press this button here and click open with. See if that works. And it gives you all of these different options. I would definitely recommend, if you're using iPads, to tag it. Because especially if you're doing a sample or a loop set, they sometimes come up with funny names like 00. So if you tag it as something, say you tag it with a red, perfect. So yeah, if you tag it with a red, then it's obvious to find in your files later if you can't rename it, or it's something like a sample set that you can't rename. So if you're working with a MacBook, AirDrop's probably the obvious one to do. You can AirDrop to your MacBook to save your file in there, or you can do that with another iPad as well. So yeah, AirDrop to your first option. Your other option is you can save it to your files. So if you click that there, come up with this button and you can have the option to save it wherever you want to. The obvious place is to save it to ThumbJam on your iPad. And then obviously from there you can plug your iPad into a computer and just click and drag the files across. Let's try the last option. So again, go to open with. The other option is this one in the middle. So it says here, copy to BandLab, copy to iMovie. Any of the options that show up here are other apps that you can import it to. So for example, if we clicked copy to iMovie, it would copy whatever you've got. Say you've finished your loop and you've recorded your loop, you've got something full, it'll copy it straight into a video for you, and then you can put videos on top of that. So that's another thing to watch out for that's quite handy. The next app that I wanted to look at recording from is the GarageBand app that we use quite a lot at Drake, because this is the one that you can use to record instruments and create new instruments and samples and things like that and make tracks. So the way to do it is if you go to your songs page, you'll see all of your songs there. So this is the one that I want to share here, my song 2. So if I hover over that and it gives you all these options, and then if you just click share, so it gives you 3 options here. So you can export, firstly you can export your song as a project. So say if you were getting rid of this iPad but you hadn't quite finished your project, you can export it as a project and it will export it as the full thing that you can import into GarageBand, another version of GarageBand on a different iPad later on. So that's one thing that you can do. The other thing that you can do is you can save it as a song, so it'll basically save it as a full finished piece that you can't really edit, something that you could play through like an MP3 player. So it would be an MP3 or a WAV file, and you could just play it as like you would a normal song. So if we do that and click share, and let's see what options it gives us. So same as before with ThumbJam, gives us very similar options. You've got that AirDrop option, so you can drop it to a MacBook if you've got a MacBook, or you can drop it straight to another iPad. The other option you've got all those apps as well, so you can email it to yourself, same as we could in ThumbJam. You can save it to your files, again, same as you could in ThumbJam. Let's click save to files. And there we go, you can pick where you want to save it. You can put it in GarageBand or whatever. You'll notice on GarageBand there's a lot more apps. It's because it's just a bit more compatible than ThumbJam. There's actually this option straight to copy it straight to ThumbJam, which will save us a lot of time. So if you click that ThumbJam option, It'll open up ThumbJam and it'll ask you if you want to import it as a loop or a sample. So let's just import it as a loop. Perfect. And then to get that up, we just go to loops, load. You want to click that loop button in the middle and you'll see it's come up there, My Song 2, replace all, and it starts to play automatically. That's imported straight into ThumbJam. You'll notice there's only one track on here, whereas in GarageBand we have 2 tracks. So basically it's taken all of the audio and condensed it into one track so that it can input it into ThumbJam. So that's just something to watch out for. If you're going between the 2 apps, they will condense to fit in the apps. So I would do whatever you're doing on GarageBand and finish it, and then export it and put it into ThumbJam. It's worth noting that it won't let you upload things with the same name. So if I go back and edit My Song 2 in GarageBand and then I want to re-export it into ThumbJam, I'm going to have to delete this version first, or I'm going to have to rename the GarageBand before exporting, because ThumbJam won't like it if you're trying to import something that there's a name of already in ThumbJam. Let's have a look at that other option now. So we can also import it as a sample. Perfect. And then if we go into Create Instrument, and then we'll import new, we go into the recorded ones and you'll see there My Song 2 has come up. And we can click that. Perfect, we know it's the right one, import that, and there we go. We can now use that as an instrument. So if we play it like we would an instrument, so that's quite cool. That's another way of really editing your sounds to make really new and exciting things. It's just something that you can do that combines the 2 bits of technology, and yeah, you can really make something that's brand new and really unique. If you were working with GarageBand and you wanted to export some but not all of your tracks, the easiest way to do that is to just go into the song with the track in that you want to export. So say you want to put it in ThumbJam, but you want these as individual loops so you can edit them later in ThumbJam. If you just edit them, so if we click this headphones button here, we'll solo that. So now that's only going to play the one track. Perfect. Go back into your My Song screen and do the same thing. Click your share button, export into whatever you need it to. So yeah, you can put it straight into ThumbJam, you can save that as a file, or you can airdrop it. But again, you've just got to be careful that you save it as different things. If you really wanted to, you could copy that or duplicate it and then change the name so you've got My Song Track 1 or something like that. And that's an easier way of maybe doing that. And then anytime you want to get the whole thing again, you just click that solo off. There are also some ways that you can import into GarageBand if you need to from ThumbJam. So let's say we have a sound on ThumbJam that we like, but we want to play it and use it in the GarageBand sampler app. So let's open up that sampler app. And you'll see here with new sample, it gives you the option to import from somewhere else. If you do want to import from ThumbJam, you first need to export it in ThumbJam. So let's open up that ThumbJam app and do what we did before. We can export, say we wanted to export a sample. Let's choose a sample sound. Let's pick an instrument. Perfect. So we're going to export that sound and we're going to save it to files. So open with, save to files. I'm just going to save it in the ThumbJam folder. Add that. Perfect, that should be that exported. And then if we go into GarageBand, let's try importing a new sample. So let's import that sample that we just exported. So you're going to have to browse from files, search until you find your ThumbJam app, which is where you've saved it. Let's have a look. Scroll down until you find it. There we go, the Tankura. If you just tap that, it should upload into here. It'll just take a second. There we go. Tap that one. And if you click this little button at the side, and that's that imported now. And you could do that with any of the samples that are already in ThumbJam, any of the instruments they've already got in there, or anything that you record in ThumbJam. So that's just a way of again, merging the two apps if you need to, if you maybe want more control of your pitch or something here, or if you want more control of how to trim and tune and reverse those sounds, for example. So the only thing just to watch out for with that app is that you need to take these effects off if you want it straight from the thumb jam sound. So if you play in thumb jam now, it will give this robot effect on top of whatever it is you're playing. So I'm just going to make sure I turn that off. Let's see, I'll just put clean on. There we go. And now if I go into thumb jam, there we go, I can just play the instruments as they are. The last thing that we can do in GarageBand, which is actually pretty cool, is you can actually use GarageBand and thumb jam together. You can record in thumb jam for it to automatically go into GarageBand. So if you click this app that says external, down here there's inter-app audio. Let's tap that. It gives you all these options. So if you just click thumb jam, so if you click that, it'll take you straight to thumb jam and in whatever setting you've last left it. The great thing about this, for example, is you can record all the loops and things that you want in thumb jam, and then you can edit them and mix them in GarageBand. That's probably what it would be mostly used for. You can add on effects and kind of finish off your piece if you wanted to. So the easy way to do that, let's create a quick loop. Perfect, so I have a quick loop that I've already made. I've just recorded that in thumb jam. So it's already in thumb jam, and the way to record it into GarageBand is you see this little tab up here. When you hit that record button, it'll give you the count in from GarageBand and start playing whatever track that you have in GarageBand already. So you will need to play, you'll need to hit this play button in thumb jam as soon as that count in's gone. So I'll give you an example. So I hit that record button. Perfect. You see, you can hear the GarageBand track with the weird monster and the robot, and then there's my dirty organ track that I've recorded as well. And as soon as you're done, you can hit that pause button. Let's go back into GarageBand, double check it's there. And there we go, it's recorded straight into thumb jam. Perfect. But it's a way of not having to export and input. It's just a way of cutting out all the mess and the faff. You don't have to use loops, you can record things straight as you're playing them. So if I play that GarageBand app, it starts recording. Perfect. And I can just play the piano straight into it. I don't have to make a loop. So that's an easy way of doing that. Let's go back and have a look. And there we go, there's my track, and I can pull it back to the start if I need to. So there you go, that's a super easy way of bypassing all of the exporting and importing that makes that a little bit easier for you, and you can combine those two apps and use them together. So that's just a couple of ways that you can use, that you can export audio and sounds and actual files and full projects using the thumb jam and the GarageBand apps. Say if you're using an iPad that you're sharing with somebody else, or you're maybe in a temporary setting and borrowing somebody's iPad or something, and you need to put it into your computer to use somewhere else. That's a way of doing that and getting around things. It's also showing you a way of incorporating those two apps together and a way that you can use to make your sounds sound more unique if you needed to, and you can just have that little bit more control with editing things further by combining them and either putting GarageBand into thumb jam or thumb jam into GarageBand. It's just a way of expanding your horizons a bit more to get what you need from the two apps. There are some other ways that you can do that. You can buy apps that let you do things a little bit easier. So there's an app called Audio Share, and that essentially means you can copy and paste different bits of audio from different apps into other audio and music creating apps. So that's definitely one thing that you can do. But it's not something that's free, so this is a way you can bypass having to buy an app. But there are apps out there that you can buy if that makes your life a little bit easier. Great! So now you kind of should have the basic fundamentals of how you can record using GarageBand two different ways, and how you can record using thumb jam two different ways, and then how you can share those files as well with other people, with yourself for later, and how you can import things into them as well. That's pretty much the basics that you need to get going. Yeah, so enjoy creating music, enjoy saving music, and enjoy sharing it with everybody. Thank you.